truth, and a person who is familiar with the entire sanctuary service not only receives a blessing from the study but also understands more fully other portions of the sacred book. For the different feasts and sacrifices referred to frequently all through the Bible. Cross and shadow, page 244, paragraph 1. Type, antitype, the type. For example, Leviticus 23, chapter 23, verses 27 and 34. The Feast of the Tabernacle came only a few days after the Day of Atonement. That was the type, or example. Antitype, or the reality. Revelation 22, verses 11 and 12. Quickly after the decree to close the judgment of Christ comes for his people. What decree? The death decree. So, quickly after the death decree, the close of the judgment of Christ, that closes the judgment of Christ comes for his people. Type, for example, Leviticus 23 verses 40 to 42. People dwelt in booths and lived in a camp life. Antitype, Revelation 20 verse 9. The dwelling place of the redeemed before the earth is made new is called the camp of the saints. Type, example, Leviticus 23 verse 42. All that are born of Israel could participate in the Feast of Tabernacles. Antitype, the reality, John 3 verse 5. It is the new birth that entitles a person to share in the camp of the saints. Cross in the Shadow, Stephen Haskell, page 239 to 244. Children's quiz. Question number 1. The Feast of Tabernacles was the last feast in the yearly round of service and typified the final consummation of the entire plan of redemption. It began on the 15th day of the 7th month. When the harvest of all gathered from field, vineyard, and olive groves. True or false? Who says true? Raise your hands. Those say false, raise your hands. Statement is true. This is a true statement. Question number 2. The question number 1 was true. Here's question number 2. This feast was commemorative as well as typical. It commemorated their desert wandering and remembrance of the 10 homes. All Israel dwelt in booths during the 7 days. True or false? Those say true, raise your hands. Those say false, raise your hands. Question number 2, the answer is true. This is a true statement. Question number 3. The new year began in the spring for creation time. Began with fruit trees laden with fruit already to furnish food for man. The Feast of Tabernacles, or Feast and Gathering, it was called, was at the year's beginning, or the revolution of the year. True or false? Let's say true, raise your hands. Let's say false, raise your hands. Answer is false. It's not. It was not the beginning of the year. It was at the end of the year. Let's go look this back up a little bit. So it says right here, the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast and Gathering, as it was called, was held at the year's end, not the beginning of the year, end of the year, or the revolution of the year. That's how we know. So now we know it was at the year's end, not the beginning. So question number 2, question number 3 is false. That's a false statement. It was not the beginning of the year, it was the end of the year. Question number 4. At this time, the children of Israel not only commemorated their tent life by living in booths, but the temple was especially illuminated in remembrance of the pillar of fire that guided them in their wanderings. On the last day of the feast, a beautiful service, crowning service. The last day, the great day of the feast, commemorates a miraculous supply of water in the rainforest. True or false? They'll say true, raise your hands. Say false, raise your hands. This statement, question number 4, is a false statement. It was a miraculous supply of water in the desert, not the rainforest. So question 4 is a false statement. Question number 5. Many incidents in Christ's life cluster around the last Feast of Tabernacles, which he attended. It was on that day, at the service, he stood in the temple court, cried, "If any man thirsts, let him come unto me and drink." It was Christ who led them by the pillar of cloud. It was he who supplied the water from the rock. They drank from the spiritual rock that went with them. That rock was Christ. True or false? Those say true, raise your hands. Say false, raise your hands. This here, question number 5 is a true statement. It's true. Adult quiz. Question number 1. The Feast of Tabernacles began 5 days after the Day of Atonement, and all Israel rejoicing in the acceptance with God, and also for the bounty of the harvest which has been gathered. True or false? Is this a true statement or false statement? The answer is true. It was on the 15th day, or 5 days after the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement was the 10th day of the 7th month, and Feast of Tabernacles was the 15th day of the 7th month, or 5 days later. So this is a true statement. So question number 1 is true. Question number 2. Some very interesting Bible scenes are connected with the feast. Solomon's temple was dedicated at the Feast of Tabernacles. When his return from the Egyptian captivity, this was the first feast celebrated after the wall of Jerusalem was restored. And it was a time of great rejoicing. Is this statement a true statement or false statement? Those say true, raise your hands. Those say false, raise your hands. Question number 2 is a false statement. Why? Because when Israel returned from Babylonian captivity, not Egyptian captivity, this was the feast that was celebrated at the wall of Jerusalem that was restored. So this was a false statement. Question number 2 is false. Question number 3. The priest dipped a flagon of water in the curd and burned it aloft, meanwhile marching to the sound of music and chanting a portion of 122nd Psalm. He entered the temple court by the altar with 2 basins, and a priest poured water into one basin, another priest poured a flagon of water into another basin, and the wine and water mingled together, flowed through the pipe back to the curd. Is this a true statement or false statement? Those say true, raise your hands. Those say false, raise your hands. The answer is this is false. It's supposed to be water from the Kidron Valley, not the curd, and pipe back to the curd. It's supposed to be the Kidron Valley from Kidron. So this question number 3 is a false statement. That's false. Question number 4. The Feast of Tabernacles followed the Day of Atonement, which means the antitype and the judgment. Hence must typify an event that comes after the close of the judgment. When Christ leaves the heavenly sanctuary, it will be but a short time as he comes to earth to gather his people, when he will take them to heaven and they will behold his glory he had with the Father before the world was. True or false? Those say true, raise your hands. Those say false, raise your hands. The answer is true. This is a true statement. Question number 5. 5th and final question. For 1,000 years, the saints will reign with Christ in the earth before they return to the eternal home, this earth, free from every curse. The New Jerusalem with gates of pearls and streets of gold will be the metropolis of the glorious abode of the redeemed. True or false? So who says question number 5 is a true statement? Raise your hands. Let's say question 5 is a false statement. Raise your hands. The answer